Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's talk about most popular wine faults and how to spot them. Wine is a living product. It can seem shy, it can develop into something different than originally expected, it can excite us, and it can disappoint us. Sometimes wine disappoints us because it simply doesn't meet the expected quality, and other times because the wine is faulty. The good thing with faulty bottles is that we can exchange them. Ask the sommelier to open a new one, or if we are at home, simply put the cork back in the bottle and return it to the retailer. I doubt that every major retailer chain will exchange the wine, but if you buy your wine from a specialized wine shop, they certainly should. So let's talk about some of the most common wine faults, how to spot them, and whether or not we should ask for a new bottle. Shall we start with the most obvious one? A wine described as corked will have lost most or all of its fruit flavors and will smell of wet wood bark, wet cardboard, or damp cellar. It will have a distinctively musty taint. Most commonly, it is caused by compounds 3-chloroanisole (TCA) or 3-bromoanisole (TBA). This taint used to be blamed solely on natural corks, which were thought to spoil the wine. However, when cork taint was detected in wines sealed with other closures, studies revealed that TCA and TBA can also be imparted from oak. This is why I always suggest that even when a wine is sealed with a closure other than natural cork, it is best to sample it anyway. Because not only can it still be corked, but there are many other wine faults that are not linked with cork closures. I actually feel kind of bad for this specific fault because no matter what the issue with the wine is, we regularly refer to it as corked, even if the wine is completely free of TCA and TBA. Corked wines should definitely be exchanged at the restaurant, and I would definitely bring the bottle back to the retailer as well. Some wine experts whom I respect highly have told me that cork taint can be removed from wine by placing it in a plastic bag. Well, not any plastic bag, but that made of polyvinyl chloride. However, I am yet to try that experiment at home. If you have tried it and it worked, please let me know in the comments. Probably the trendiest of wine faults today is mousiness or mouse taint. Theoretically, it smells or tastes like mouse droppings, or the description that I loved the most, puppy breath. I say theoretically because according to Australian Wine Research Institute, 30% of the population cannot sense it, and I am one of them. I have been in several panel tastings where the speaker noted that a wine was tainted, and I personally didn't notice any problem. I also attended a masterclass with 9 wines in front of me, some with faults and some without. When asked if a certain wine had any fault, I raised my hand along with few more very prominent people to say that it was fault-free, but it turned out it was treated with mouse taint. So please know that I am speaking here not from my own experience, but rather the knowledge that I have gathered. Apparently, this fault appears after the wine has been in your mouth for a few seconds, creating a really unpleasant, long-lasting aftertaste similar to that of mouse droppings. Some argue that it is becoming so popular now because overall lower levels of SO2 are used in winemaking. So, mousiness is linked to unwanted bacteria activity, most likely lactic acid bacteria, and is further accentuated by the presence of oxygen. Those who can detect it usually will not be able to enjoy the wine, and it should be exchanged at the restaurant. The only problem is, as I mentioned before, it is a trendy taint that 1/3 of the population cannot detect, including winemakers themselves. So how can you explain that the wine is tainted if the other person cannot feel it? This particular fault actually angers me the most because it is literally caused by prioritizing appearance over quality. Why would you use inferior packaging to bottle your high-quality product? It's just beyond my understanding. Those who study chemistry or have some knowledge of pharmacy will understand immediately, but in simple terms, light can cause several faults in wine. Not only will the wine lose its fruity flavors, but it will start to smell unpleasant, like drained water or boiled cabbage. Furthermore, light breaks down tartaric acid, which is plentiful in wine, creating elements that quickly bond with free SO2, leaving wine unprotected. This leads to premature wine oxidation. So I always try to stay away from wines bottled in clear glass, especially if I don't know how they have been stored. It is surprisingly common, especially in pink wines, white wines, and sparkling wines bottled in clear glass. This is why I advise you to keep your precious Cristal Champagne and Ca del Bosco Franciacorta in a foil wrap, and keep that second skin on your Ruinart Blanc de Blanc as well. This is also why I do not like when there's a constant light turned on in wine fridges or cabinets. Wine does not need it, it is better without it. If served at restaurant, I would definitely refuse that bottle. Yet another very trendy fault, this time caused by acetic acid bacteria. It has a strong character of vinegar and nail polish remover and is definitely very unpleasant, often referred to in a casual conversations as VA, volatile acidity. More importantly, volatile acidity and its concentration are controlled in majority of countries, and if it exceeds a certain level, the wine will not be allowed to enter the market. Now, every wine has some level of VA because it is a natural byproduct of an alcoholic fermentation. However, it is found in much higher levels in low intervention and natural wines, as some wild yeasts are known to develop increased amounts of it. The main perpetrator for its formation is aforementioned acetic acid bacteria, which in the presence of oxygen actively convert alcohol into acetic acid. Once this activity has started, there is no way to reduce it, not with blending, nor with SO2 additions. In fact, the best way to avoid VA is through very scrupulous work at the winery, careful grape selection, high hygiene standards, limiting the wine's exposure to oxygen, and smart use of SO2, which is highly effective against bacteria activity. The problem nowadays is that with increasingly popular natural wine movement, some industry representatives have either developed higher tolerance to it or simply don't care. I have been in wine tastings where wines that literally smell like nothing but a paint thinner are described as slightly volatile and advised by experts to aerate. The problem is that, unlike with small amounts of reduction, VA only becomes more prominent in wine, it does not aerate out. After all, wine is on its path to becoming a vinegar. I have the utmost respect for low intervention and natural winemakers because those who truly do a great job understand all of these risks and work accordingly, following the highest hygiene standards, and their wines are on a different level. However, those who use natural wine as means of marketing usually fail to deliver the same quality standards. Okay, so I have left this controversial fault for last because not everyone will consider it as fault in wine. In fact, some will fiercely defend its place as part of terroir. Wines that have bready nose usually show animal-like, barnyard and sweaty horse notes. Furthermore, these aromas might be accentuated by some medicinal characters as well. It is caused by unwanted activity of a very sturdy yeast called Brettanomyces bruxellensis, although other yeasts have also been linked to it. I have noticed that winemakers from Australia, New Zealand and Americas are more likely to identify its flavors as fault, while winemakers from Europe are more tolerant to it. However, it was a very dear friend of mine from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, a region once highly associated with Brett in wine and still is in some cases, who told me that lack of hygiene should not be associated with terroir. His argument is that if Brett can be introduced in wine through dirty tools, dirty barrels or other dirty vessels, it is not a terroir, it is a fault. My tolerance towards Brett depends on the wine style and the producer. Very small amounts in richer and fuller-bodied reds, as well as aged reds, do not bother me much. However, high levels, or more importantly, Brett in white wines, which I have had the misfortune to taste, are something that I have zero tolerance for and are certainly faults. So any white or sparkling wine, I would definitely return back. Let me know in the comments if I missed any faults. I am well aware that I did not mention all of them, and also let me know which one bothers you the most. If you like this video, you will probably be interested in this one as well.